Welcome to Fatherhood for the Rest of Us with Brandon Handley. Because you're already great at everything else, why not fatherhood too?
Hey there, and welcome to Fatherhood for the Rest of Us. This is Brandon Handley. I am the creator and founder of Fatherhood for the Rest of Us. I want to say thank you for choosing to spend your time with me today on Fatherhood for the Rest of Us. I also want to just encourage you, if you could, to go over to the podcast on iTunes, download it, subscribe to it, and leave a review if you have found any part of this at all to have an impact on your life. That will help others to find the show and listen to it and get the same type of enjoyment that you are out of it. Also, if you are a father and if you're looking for a place that you can go celebrate fatherhood or perhaps even share some struggles and get some advice or find some like-minded men, I strongly encourage you to stumble on over to Fatherhood for the Rest of Us, the private Facebook group, and ask to join. I'll let you right in. That's going to do it for right now, guys. And please stay tuned for today's podcast. 4, 3, 2, 1. Hey there, Fatherhood for the Rest of Us. I am on today with BrendanMahan, who is the host of the ADHD Essentials podcast, an internationally known ADHD executive function consultant coach and a highly engaging speaker. He helps people manage the emotional, academic, and lifestyle impacts ADHD has on both the people who have it and those who love them. Brendan, thanks for being on today. How you doing?
I'm doing well. Thanks for having me. Yeah, I'm excited to be here.
Absolutely. I like to start this off with what is something that we can share with the audience that we can help you celebrate today?
Share with the audience to help me celebrate. So, you know what? The thing that I'm celebrating the most right now is how happy my kids are that it's Friday. It's been a bit of a rough since Christmas, so a month and a half. For my, especially one of my guys, because we haven't had a full week of school. We had one since Christmas. We've had one full week of school. Yeah. So between snow days and vacation days, and then some half day professional development stuff, my guys are just thrown off by it. So in Massachusetts, next week is school vacation week. And my guys all week long have been like, I can't wait till Friday because everything good is happening Friday. We're going to see Black Panther. It's the beginning of vacation. And then they like the TV show How to Train Your Dragons, and a bunch of new episodes dropped in Netflix today.
Really today? Excellent,
yeah,
man. I guess I'm not going to say I put my kids down in front of the TV and watch Netflix all the time, but I'm going to put them down and watch some Netflix. They love that stuff too, man. So those are some definitely awesome things to celebrate, and it sounds exciting. And I'm happy for you to be enjoying that time with your kids, man. That's cool.
Thanks for asking. So what are you celebrating?
What am I celebrating? Man, I'm celebrating having these conversations. I'm not going to lie, Brendan. I think that it's just a real joy for me to be able to have conversations like this, to have this platform, to have a welcoming audience, to have people that want to talk to me is also, I mean, that's always a plus, right? So, over the course of the past 24 hours, I'll be interviewed twice and have 2 interviews going on and have a bunch of really just, I feel like impactful conversations. That I leave them feeling something, somebody else leaves them feeling something, and maybe impact lives beyond that. And being able to do that and have that kind of life is a life worth living, and that's what I'm celebrating today, Brendan.
Yeah, and I mean I'll celebrate right next to you, right? That's the same. I'm having the same experience. I mean, my podcast is all of 7 episodes old, but it's amazing that just the conversations you get to have with people about things that you otherwise don't talk about. And to help them out too, on top of that, it's awesome.
Absolutely. Seeing progress. I mean, that's probably got to be one of the most exciting things that you get to see. Well, let's jump into it though, Brendan. Let's just jump into it. I mean, we know that you're working with ADHD. How did you jump into this line of work? What is it that attracted you to it?
I have it. So that's a big piece of it, right? No, I was a teacher. I taught for 7 years. And I taught at a time when schools didn't have much money. So when schools don't have money, they cut the new guy. And I was the new guy more than once. So I got let go a few times. And at the end of it, I was like, I can't get better at this job if I don't keep a curriculum. So what else could I do? I was like, well, I'm good at working with the kids side of it. So I went and got a second master's degree. I already had one in education. Went and grabbed another. Yeah, right.
Everybody
Like,
needs 2 master's degrees,
yeah,
Brendan.
you can never have too many of them. So I got another one in school counseling. Turns out I should have been doing that the whole time, which lots of people have been saying to me. And got the degree in school counseling, and at the same time was looking at ADHD coaching and working with people who had ADHD, because a few years prior I had started to deal with my own ADHD as an adult. And was like, I know, I get this. Like, this is stuff I can help people with. So I simultaneously got a master's degree and started to learn how to be an ADHD coach.
Okay.
And guidance counseling degrees, or I'm sorry, I misspoke. Guidance counseling positions are pretty hard to find, at least in Massachusetts where I live. There's maybe 10 of them that come up every school year, and there's hundreds and hundreds of people who want those jobs. So the competition's pretty stiff.
Well, there's only 1 or 2 per school versus like the teachers, right? So if you go and you get that, then the competition is a lot more.
It is. Yeah.
Stiffer.
Yeah. So I started doing the ADHD stuff instead.
Wow.
And just sort of steered into that, started doing workshops. I started at my local library, and since then I've presented at every level from preschool through college, every education level.
Sure.
I do community talks just to help parents out. And I do like mental health agencies and occupation agencies. And so I'm really just, it's a labor of love. It's like a mission, right? Like I'm trying to help people understand what ADHD is, how it works, help them recognize that they're not alone. And the more I started doing it and learning about it, the more driven I became to help people have ADHD.
Would you say, I think that what's interesting is that you had kind of 2 career trajectories, one in being a teacher and this other one in being a counselor and working and they're both jobs that to me would give you a sense of purpose if you wanted, right?
Yeah.
Do you feel like you could have gone either way, or do you really feel like it sounds like you found something that's giving you purpose and you're taking this drive with the ADHD? Are you glad that you lost some of those jobs and you fell into this?
Yes. Yeah. And I'm glad I started as a teacher, because so much, like, really, I'm a professional helper, and I've been a professional helper since I started doing anything, even back when I was a summer camp counselor. That's still helping, right?
Yeah. I mean, it depends on how you do it, I guess.
Well, when I did it. And so the teaching career really helped me to communicate, because that's all teaching is. It's just really clear communication. And it helped me to build understanding for people. So when you bring that into a counseling job or a coaching job, it's just an incredibly effective tool set to have.
Yeah.
Because I can walk people through ADHD in about 2 hours.
Okay.
If you want an A job, like I can do it in an hour, and it's not as good, but it's only because there's not as much time.
Right.
So I bring all kinds of metaphors to the table and all kinds of different ways to explain stuff. And if you don't get it one way, you'll get it another. But it's all teaching initially. And then after that, it's coaching. After that, it's like, all right, well, here's where you're tripping and falling down, or here's where your kid is tripping and falling down. And let's figure out how to solve that problem.
That's great. That's great. I mean, and coming from it, with having it yourself, how has that shown up? And is it a hindrance or a superpower?
It's both. And anyone who tells you different is lying. It's hard to have ADHD, right? It's hard because people deny that it exists. It's hard because it makes life harder. Most of ADHD is attentional challenges and organizational challenges. And also like awareness of time and emotional regulation and that kind of stuff. That's the essential building blocks of success. If you're not organized and don't understand how time works and can't manage your emotions and are not that great at regulating your attention, you're done. Like, our society is not looking to have you do anything.
So if it were Sparta, you're getting thrown off.
Right. And so, but at the same time, those are challenges that everybody has. So people are also saying, oh, well, ADHD is not real. Like, everybody has those challenges. Like, yeah, but you know what? Everybody also has trouble breathing, sometimes in a smoky room or when you go running around a lot, but that doesn't mean everyone has asthma, right? Like ADHD is like brain asthma. It just makes it harder.
Is there an inhaler for that? I guess it's the follow-up.
There is. Yeah. It's over here somewhere. Here you go.
Brain asthma. Look at that.
It's just an essential thing you need for life that's harder for you. That's all. Asthma is the same thing.
Sure. So what, what are some of the typical challenges that families affected by ADHD face?
Sure. Yeah. A lot of it is organization and planning and prioritizing, right? And that leads to challenges with follow through. So you got a kid who maybe he does his homework, but there's a little bit of a fight because it's frustrating and it's a little more difficult than it should otherwise be. But you get him to do his homework. Awesome. It took longer than you expected, but at least it's done. And then he leaves it on the kitchen table. So he did all his work, but it didn't go to school, right? Because that's an organizational piece. Right. And you need, as a family, as parents, you have to build in a system for that. You have to build in a structure for that. Like, all right, the homework's done. Now what do you do with it? Oh, I have to put it in my folder. Awesome. Now what are you doing with that folder now your homework's in it? Putting it in my backpack? Yes. And where does your backpack belong? On the hook near the door? Yes. Like, there's a whole lot of steps where that can go wrong, even if the homework's done. And ADHD is missing those steps. It's like, I finished the homework, that means I'm done. No, that doesn't mean you're done. That means you have to clean up. Doing any task, there's 3 steps to doing any task. Set it up, do it up, clean it up. People with ADHD tend to only want to do the doing part. So right?
I mean, come on now, who doesn't?
Because that's the exciting part. That's the part that's engaging, right?
Sure.
Taking out the materials is not engaging. That's boring. And so often they'll be doing whatever the task is, and then all of a sudden realize they need a stapler. All of a sudden realize they need a pencil or a calculator or whatever it is. And then when they're done, they feel like they're done, except that you have to put that stapler away. You have to put that pencil in the cup that it belongs in or whatever.
Right. So, I mean, we're looking at, implementing systems, processes and systems at the home and establishing these for families and or children. What are some of the challenges you face when a parent comes in, says their child has ADHD, and during the conversation, like, hey, you do too. Let's have this conversation. You're a part of this.
I never say you do too. What I do is I walk them through ADHD and they realize that they have it too.
Okay. And so, let's talk about that. Like when they realize that, like, hey, listen, holy smokes, I'm a part of this too. What does that conversation sound like? What happens then?
It sounds like I listen to what they have to say. I listen to what they're noticing. I validate it. Like, yeah, I hear you. It makes sense that when you were a kid, you always left your homework on the kitchen table too. And now your son's doing it. So it's a repeat of the same problem. What would have helped you when you were a kid? Or what are you doing as an adult that ensures that you don't leave stuff on the kitchen table? And can we share that with your kid? How can we translate the coping strategies you've developed into strategies that are applicable to your son or daughter?
Okay.
That's one thing. If the parent starts wanting to work with me, sometimes that's the way to go. If I'm looking at a young kid, like elementary school, I really want to be working with the parents because at that age, it's about helping the parents more effectively parent. It's about building skills for the parents. And as we talk, you're going to notice that so much of my approach is a skill-based approach. Right. It's not that people with ADHD can't do stuff. It's that they need to learn it in a different way so that they build the skills they need. So I might be working with parents to develop some skills. If they have ADHD, it's just the same skills that their kid needs, only in a different way. A lot of it is around communication. There's a ton of communication challenges with ADHD. And because a major component of ADHD that's neurological is a neurotransmitter called dopamine, which is the brain's anticipation and reward chemical. A lot of people call it the happy chemical, but that's not really what it is. It's about wanting to do something and then feeling good after you did it. The thing is, dopamine exists in areas outside of happiness. So in the ADHD brain, you're not making as much dopamine as someone who is neurotypical, and you're not utilizing it efficiently. So it's like you're driving a gas guzzling car with a tank that you can only ever fill halfway, and you're expected to go the same distance as your friend in the Prius. And it's just never going to happen. Right? Like you can go the same distance, but you're going to have to pull over and refuel, and it's going to take longer, and it's going to be more of a process.
I guarantee you one of you looks cooler than the other in the end.
Right. Yeah. So where that plays out is the ADHD brain is starved for dopamine and wants it. And dopamine comes from accomplishing a task, but small stuff isn't enough most of the time. Like doing the dishes is not going to give you dopamine because your brain is sort of going, that's nothing. You're not getting any dopamine for that. Do something bigger, right? So an argument is really engaging and full of dopamine. It's not happy, but it's still full of dopamine. And that's where the happiness chemical part breaks down. And so kids and parents with dopamine challenges with ADHD get into a lot of arguments because it's engaging, it's exciting, it's full of dopamine. Now their brain's getting what they want, but it's not helpful. It doesn't help solve the problem. It doesn't do anything for the relationship and the family. It damages it, if nothing else. So we really I do a lot of work with helping parents understand how to communicate with their kid to get their kid to do the thing that they need to do without causing drama or with causing less drama.
Okay. As you're talking, I mean, it sounds to me like somebody with ADHD may also end up being a thrill seeker.
Yep.
What are some other alternatives you give or offer to parents and families that can help them with the dopamine issue? Recognizing that, what is something outside of medication that's possible?
Yeah, I was going to go to medication first because that's what it's designed to do, is increase the availability of dopamine. But you can just make stuff playful. Like that's a great way to go.
Okay.
Just make it. And this is coming from the work of a woman named Kirsten Milliken, who wrote a book called Play ADHD. Just make it playful. Like your kid's got to clean the room. All right, let's have a little challenge, like I'm going to see how many Legos I can pick up. You see how many Legos you can pick up. Right? Or we each get a cup. Who can fill their cup fastest with Legos? And then once your cup is full, we see who won and we dump them into the bin, and then we each go back to picking up Legos or whatever the case may be. Legos are a really good example too, because you can make that playful. When my guys were really little, when they were like 5, I would say like, all right, Nate, you pick all the red Legos up. Gavin, you get all the blue Legos, and let's see what it looks like after we picked up all the red Legos and all the blue Legos. And now they have a smaller task to do. It's not overwhelming. It's not all the Legos. It's playful because you're picking a specific thing. And it's also playful because we're going to see what it looks like after, right? There's a little science happening, kind of.
Sure.
Like 5-year-old science, but still.
Yeah, man, that's great stuff.
Yeah. And that's the kind of stuff you want to take. Those are the strategies.
I enjoy that. Absolutely. What are some things that you when did you figure out you had ADHD, and what are some of the strategies you've implemented for yourself?
I started dealing with it when I was like mid 30s. So maybe 33, 34.
Okay.
And I started dealing with it because at one of my teaching jobs, I was struggling. I'm not going to lie. I was not performing up to task. And some of that was because I was a brand new dad of identical twins.
Not easy.
No, not easy. And so I wasn't sleeping well. And if you have ADHD and you're not sleeping well, that's going to mess up your ADHD. If you're in the middle of a life transition, that's going to mess up your ADHD too. Both of those are happening for me.
Okay.
And so I wound up losing that job. I went to another one. That school, it was fine, but then they had to let 9 people go a few years after I was been in there, and I was new, so off I went.
Sure.
But in that time, I started dealing with the ADHD, and I started using a calendar. Like Google Calendars are amazing for me. They send reminders to your phone. They're visual. Like you can look at the whole week and kind of get an idea what you're doing, which is important for future planning. Again, the reminders are great. I used to play a game when I was an English teacher where I basically had to go to the library if I wanted to grade my essays because I could not at home with infants. That's not a plan. But motivating myself to go to the library, that's a different story, right?
Right. Yeah.
So I would set a reminder on my calendar to go to my phone that was like, go to the library, right? And one day I got to the library before my reminder showed up,
Okay.
and it was the most amazing dopamine burst for
Ah,
me. I was like, oh, I beat my reminder.
uh,
And then it just became a game after that. I
okay.
was always trying to beat that reminder to the library. Um, and that goes beyond grading, right? That can be anything. That can be a way to help you get somewhere on time.
Right.
Erasing your reminder, like there's that playful idea, right?
Sure.
I make liberal use of my Alexa, the Amazon like Echo Dot. We have one of those.
Okay. How do you do that?
So the way it works, it's one of those like Internet of Things smart devices.
Sure.
And you just say to it, Alexa, set a reminder. And Alexa says back to you, what's the reminder? And you say, I don't know, do the dishes. And Alexa says, what time? And you say 5:15. And she says, AM or PM? And you say PM.
Nice.
And then
Nice.
at 5:15, you hear, this is a reminder. Do the dishes.
Oh man.
Right? It's like
Sure.
magic.
It is kind of like magic, and the best thing about that, in my honest opinion, is like it comes from a third party source.
Right.
There's nobody else in the house telling you to do the dishes except for
Yeah.
you. You asked for that. You said, "Hey, I
Yep.
want this."
Yeah. And since we're a dad podcast, one of the reasons that that's useful is because it limits arguments.
Right. Yeah.
Because
That's beautiful.
if you need, like, we have one that hits at 7:15 every morning.
Okay.
It says, this is your reminder, brush your teeth. I don't have to remember to tell my kids to brush their teeth every day.
Yeah.
And it's not coming from me. So it limits the conflict between my kids and me about brushing their teeth, because it's Alexa telling them to do it.
Yeah, I love that. I love that. That's a great hack. It sounds to me like you know, there's an opportunity there to say, all right, what'd you say your children's names were? Nate
Nathan
and
and
Gavin,
Gavin.
right? Nate and Gavin say, hey, Nate, what time do you guys want to brush your teeth at in the morning? And they say, we want to brush our teeth at 7:18. Like, okay, well, ask Alexa to do it, right? And then
Yep.
so they're actually making this decision themselves,
Yes.
and then they're reinforcing it themselves with the Alexa. I love that.
And you're building accountability.
That's great.
It's
Yeah.
it's awesome.
That's a great idea.
Another advantage to Alexa is, and I mean, this is a dad thing and a mom thing, right? But you're going to sleep, or in theory, like you're in bed laying down, and then all of a sudden you're like, oh man, I have to do this, this, and this. What am I going to do? I'm going to forget to do those three things because it's like I'm falling asleep. I just get up and go into the kitchen. Alexa, set a reminder. And I
Nice.
set a reminder for each of those things, either to remind me in the morning when I'm leaving the house, or to remind me at the moment that I have to do it if I'm going to be near Alexa. And it's gone. I don't have to worry about it anymore.
Done. I love it, Brendan. We're going to actually flip over a little bit into fatherhood as we kind of do this part. I like to allow for an interlude here, though, of where can people go to find you and have a little bit more conversation as it relates to ADHD if they are interested.
Yeah, so they can check out ADHDessentials.com, and essentials is ESSENTIALS.com. So ADHD Essentials. They can email me at Brendan, BRENDAN. We spell it a little differently, the two of us. So yeah, Brendan at ADHDessentials.com. And then the podcast is also ADHD Essentials, and you can find that on iTunes or wherever you get your podcasts.
Thank you for tuning into this podcast, and I hope that you're truly enjoying the guests that I have on today. I also want to make sure that you are aware that Fatherhood for the Rest of Us offers personal one-on-one coaching. If you are a father out there who's been afraid or don't know what the next step is to take for you and your ideal version of life, reach out to me. Let's have the conversation. We'll see if you and I are a good fit. And if you are, I just want to help you. I want to serve you and get you to where you want to go, right? I'm not trying to get you from A to Z. I just need to help you to get to your next step. And if I can help you do that, man, it's going to be amazing. And you'll see that you'll be up and running after those first couple of steps. If you are ready to take that next step, then head on over to reconstruct.brandenhanley.com and pick a time. There's a few Pines hostels available. If you don't find something that meets your timeline, reach out to me via email, brandon@fatherhoodfortherestofus.com, and let's have that conversation. We'll see if it's a good fit. I want to help you get to the level that you want to get to. Got it. Perfect, man. Well, let's roll over into fatherhood, shall we?
Yeah.
Um, what does fatherhood mean to you, Brendan?
Man, fatherhood is what I was supposed to do with my life, to be honest with you. And even in college, my friends were like, "You're the most likely to be a dad. You're going to be such a good dad." I was like 19. I was like, "Oh no, that is not a thing that I'm ready for," but I'm glad you feel that way. And it's awesome. I love being a dad. I've got 2 sons. They're identical twins. They're 9 years old. And they're great. They make everything better. Even when it's hard, they make everything better.
That is awesome. I loved the answer. Born to do it. Yeah. Born to do it. So there was never a moment in your mind probably where you doubted what you were doing as fatherhood?
No,
You were just like
not a minute.
diving right in. I love that.
Yeah.
I love that. Just kind of speaking to that, do you ever run into somebody who is feeling doubtful about their abilities as a father? And what do you say to them?
I help them. I'm a coach,
Yeah,
right? Like a lot of what I do as an ADHD coach, depending on the clients, is parent coaching.
Okay.
So I have like a whole toolbox full of stuff that I can bring to bear.
Nice.
And my friends hit me up sometimes. My friends are like, "I don't know what's going on. My kid won't listen to me.
Sure.
Have you tried this, this, and this?" And I'm not claiming it's going to work perfectly. Like it might not work at all, but if it doesn't work, tell me and we'll come up with a new plan.
Nice.
But yeah, I mean, I love being a dad so much, and I love helping people. So I'm almost insulted if someone's struggling and doesn't talk to me about it.
Right. I mean, you're available and willing, and I think that we know that there are plenty of people out there though that just like to talk about their problems and really aren't looking to solve them. They just want somebody to listen to them talk about them, and they're not looking for a solution to it.
Absolutely.
So, I mean, there's always that person out there.
Yeah, and them you listen to. Like if it's someone I know which way to go with that, right?
Yeah.
I know who wants the advice and who wants the vent. They're like, all right, cool. Like, let me just validate what you're saying. Let me repeat back to you what you just said, so you know that I heard it.
Right.
And let me do so in a way that is calm and compassionate, and keep going. Like, keep ranting.
Right. Even though you need help. So, what is something that you love, Father?
Yeah, just real quick. Honestly, listening is help. You know, you don't need strategies. Right. If I'm not listening, if you're not ready for strategies, no amount of me giving them to you is going to help. So I want to listen and get you to where you need to be next.
Sure. I think to me, and this is just being honest, if you hear somebody repeating the same problems over and over, eventually you look at them. I look at them and just be like, do you want to fix this, or you just want to keep talking about it? Because I'm good either way, but like eventually that's going to come out of my mouth because
absolutely.
Because I can only listen to the same thing so many times, and before I'm like, listen, please help you fix this, right?
Yeah.
That's just the nature of the beast. What is, I mean, outside of having 2 at the same time, what are some of the biggest challenges that you think you faced as a father, and like, what have you done to resolve those?
3rd grade, to be honest.
Right now,
this is the hardest time so far by a mile.
Why?
Because all of a sudden the academic challenges drastically increased. Like kindergarten, 1st grade, 2nd grade, not that big of a deal. And now all of a sudden there's like twice as much homework. And the organizational skills that my kids need have like 10 times more challenging than where they were. I have to be on top of stuff because their organizational skills just aren't there yet. So I have to be much more tuned in. I have to be much more managing things. I have to email the teachers more often. One of my kids is a kind of an anxious kid, so he struggled, especially at the beginning of the school year. And we actually had to move his teacher because the teacher he was in was not a good fit, wasn't really getting the anxiety component for him. And that was really important. She was concerned about his academics, and I was like, emotions beat academics every time. And if we can't nail down the emotions, we're not going to get to the academics. And honestly, my guys are unnecessarily bright. I'm not worried about academics for them. They're fine. They're going to be fine forever. Unless the emotions get in the way. So we wound up moving him to a teacher that was a little more, a little less direct. His teacher, his third grade teacher, the first one, would make an amazing high school teacher.
Sure.
So,
Sure.
yeah,
I was gonna say, it's probably just a matter of timing, right?
Right.
And what that person's capable of dealing with. It doesn't make them a bad teacher. It's just
no, and not at all. No, she's a really
Yeah.
good teacher, and her
Yeah.
content is wonderful. She does an amazing job with the content.
Right.
But that wasn't what he needed. He needed and because she's kind of like strict. She's like, this is what's up, do the thing. This is what's up, do the thing. And his problem was feeling like, this is what's up, but do the thing. I have to be perfect. I can't make any mistakes. And her mannerism only reinforced that anxiety component for him. And that was not what we needed. We needed somebody who was like, hey, like, this is what's up. Could you do the thing? Would that be okay?
Sure.
And that now he's in a teacher that's a little more like that and doing much better.
That's great, man. I mean, I think this is awesome though, that you worked with them and him to do that. There could have been, I'm sure there are plenty of parents that are like, just do what the teacher says.
Right.
And
Yeah.
not really be tuned into those aspects. And even on top of that is that, it's a son and you're his dad. And I think historically we would have seen something more along the lines of, no, really, just go do what the teacher said. And so that's really cool. Good on you for that. And that kind of, go ahead.
And I should add, changing classrooms is not a thing that happens in schools. Like, I don't want your listeners to be like, I'll just do that, because it's not an easy fight. I burned through all of the capital that I'd been building for years in that school and in my town to make that happen. And I had to take it on the chin. The reason had to be that I was unwilling to work with the teacher because I'm a big jerk, which, I mean, it is what it is. Like, that's what has to happen. But
sure, you did it in the best interest of your child, and
right.
you feel like you were an advocate for your child, and
Mm-hmm.
you know what? In the end, you go to sleep with you at night, and you get to feel all right with that. And
Yeah.
I think that's super. What about the relationship with you and your father?
Oh, my dad's cool. Yeah. It's interesting. My mom passed away, going on 6 years now. And my mom was sort of the overwhelming presence in my life as a kid, right?
Okay.
Like, she was a nurse, so she worked weird hours, which meant she tended to be home when I was home. And stuff mattered. She worked at night and on the weekends. So after school, mom was there, right? And she just took a much more active role in parenting, like you would expect a mom to do, like the dad, especially with my parents' generation, because they're baby boomers, right? Dad takes a back seat, mom takes an active role. That's kind of how it goes. But my dad was active. He took me skiing. He encouraged me to play baseball. He got me he supported me when I moved to play in basketball. He really supported the creative side of me, which is a side of me my mom didn't understand at all and didn't know what to do with. And since my mom passed, my dad has sort of come out of her shadow. Like, in a lot of ways, he was so busy kind of helping her because she had some of her own health issues and stuff. So he was kind of so busy helping her and sort of, I think, just energy wise being overwhelmed by her, because my mom never stopped moving. It might be where the ADHD came from. So in recent years, I've really gotten to know him again in a lot of ways, which has been a great experience. And in more than one, not just in terms of getting to know him as I see him on his own, as opposed to as part of my parent unit, but I also am getting to know him through my interactions with my kids and the way that I'm interacting with them and recognizing, like, oh no, that's totally my dad. Like, that's my dad doing that.
What do you see? What do you see that you're doing that your dad used to do?
A lot of it is like, I shouldn't even say a lot of it, all of it. It's all playful stuff. It's all supporting them and being excited about things, and phrases that he would use. Like, he would be like, go get him, killer. And I don't necessarily say killer, but I'm like, go get him, bud, or like that kind of stuff, like little pieces of terms and phrases and stuff that come out, my tone of voice and how that sounds. And I'm like, oh, that's my dad. And one of the things I'm most proud of in that is that none of it is mean. None of it is hard. None of it is angry. That's not where my dad comes out of me. It's all in love and play and that kind of stuff. And it's a really cool way to get to know him even when he's not there.
That's cool. I love that. Absolutely. Absolutely. What's funny, Brendan, is that I don't talk to too many guys that have had positive role models on the podcast. And it's really interesting for me. I didn't have a positive male role model either.
Mm-hmm.
And it's really, well, I did. It's just not a dad, right? I had
Right.
some, just to be clear, in case my family ever listens, like, no, you did. You certainly did. And I'm like, sorry, forgot. Anyways, it's really interesting to see how men show up who have had that. It's for me, almost palatable. And I maybe it's second, looking back when I'm like, oh yeah, I can see all that now showing up. But in most times I'm able to kind of pick up on that type of thing. So it's just interesting to see the impact that I believe I'm going to have on my children when I talk to other men who have had positive male role models. That just makes me that much more excited to be one and continue to do what I'm doing.
Yeah. And certainly there were, I mean, like anything, it wasn't all positive stuff. Like my dad also let my mom do a lot of the housework and cooking and all that stuff. So in that way, I had to learn how to take the wheel on that stuff. I had to learn how to be more proactive in helping my wife around the house and doing the chores and running errands and that kind of stuff. He ran errands, but like if the floor needs to be swept, my mom was doing that. My dad wasn't doing that. And I need to get reminded to sweep the floor a lot. I know it's my job, but
Sure. I think that the dynamics continue to change generation after generation. Generations behind us will have different dynamics, and
absolutely.
And there's always going to be room for men to be better husbands.
Yeah, that's true.
Right. Or different. There's going to be different dynamics. But as we talk about that, what are some things that you feel that you don't get enough credit for maybe as a fatherhood? Do you feel like maybe there's less expected out of you than the wife? And do you ever find that that's frustrating?
Yes, but I'm going to rephrase it a little bit. I don't feel like there's anything that I don't get enough credit for.
Okay.
I get too much credit for it. And that's where the expectations are not fair. Because I will do the same thing that my wife does and I get credit for it and she doesn't.
Yeah,
and that's not okay.
Okay.
And a lot of that is that, I mean, I have a really strong social emotional skill set, right? In our house, in a lot of ways, our gender roles are swapped. My wife pays the bills. I take care of the kids when they're upset. Does that make sense?
Yeah, absolutely.
And I get a stupid amount of credit for helping my kid feel better. I don't need that. If I were a woman, I would not be getting that credit. And it's just because I'm a dude that you think men can't comfort a child. Like, we absolutely can comfort a child. I can comfort your child too. And it doesn't mean that I'm creepy and horrible. It just means that I know how to do that.
Sure.
So for me, and it's purely because of the skill set that I bring to the table, I get too much credit.
Yeah.
I get too much. And at the same time, but when they were really little and I was teaching, right? I had summers off. So I'd be bringing my two little kids to the playground and I would be the only dude there because I was a teacher. So I had the time. It's like a Tuesday at noon or whatever. And I would get looks from the moms around the sandbox or whatever. Nobody wanted to talk to me. Everybody assumed I was some kind of creepy dude. I'm like, I'm just a dad. Like,
right. I think that I think it's interesting that you brought it up that way too. How sometimes, and this happens here actually as well in this household, where there's a ton of credit being given to me as a dad, and I'm just being a dad. I'm not doing something more than I believe I should be doing over and beyond, and it's frustrating sometimes for my wife because of like, what are you doing that I'm not doing type of thing. And I agree, but at the same time, what am I supposed to do? Hey, stop giving me praise. Stop. I don't need that. And, not that I mind it. I just realize it to be kind of the same way you're saying, right?
Yeah.
One-sided.
Yeah, it's nonsense. No, I am not babysitting my kid.
Oh
I'm his
yeah,
dad.
I'm not a babysitter for sure. Definitely not a babysitter. And we do this together. That is all. And I'm not really sure what the phrase co-parenting really means. Is that like a phrase that means that like you're parenting but you're not together?
Yeah, I think co-parenting is like you're separated or divorced and you're both taking care of and parenting the child as opposed to being married and being in the same house.
Gotcha. All right. Well,
I
I mean,
actually super interesting on that end. I was talking to somebody who is divorced and a friend of theirs who also happens to be divorced. The way that they were taking care of their kids, and this is brilliant to me, was they have the house that they lived in, right? And then they got divorced. And so they got an apartment. And instead of the kids moving from the apartment to the house, the kids stay in the house and the parents share the apartment. So
huh.
when mom has the kids, mom is in the house
Uh-huh.
and dad's in the apartment. And when dad has the kids, dad is in the house and mom is in the apartment. So the kids always stay in the same place.
That's going to take a lot of effort from the two
And
of
a lot of
them.
understanding.
A
Yeah.
lot of that, yeah, right. I see how that is awesome, but I also see a lot of
Oh, yeah.
difficulty, right?
If the divorce is bitter, there's no way that's going to work.
Right. I
Maybe
think
you can
it
get
is.
two
It is.
apartments.
It's certainly a neat setup. It's a neat setup for sure. What what are some books that you recommend to parents who are just like, you know what? Can you just give me a book to read?
1, 2, 3 Magic
Hmm.
is, I can't recommend it highly enough.
Okay.
It's just a parenting skills book that it's really accessible, really easy to read, and the gist of it is that you need to give your kids, like when your kids are doing something you don't want them to do, you count to 3, right? 1, 2, 3. Now they're in trouble, but the 1 and the 2 give them the opportunity to course correct and fix
Okay.
their behavior and be in control of themselves, and that's really what you're teaching. And it goes into more depth than that, more detail, and about how sometimes you have to reset the number if too much time has gone by, or depending on the age of the kid and that kind of stuff. But it's a really, really well done book, and it's not that long.
Okay.
Another good book is The 5 Love Languages. Have you heard about that one?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So The 5 Love Languages is great, not just for your kids, but for your marriage too.
Sure.
I mean, it certainly helped my marriage when my wife and I were having some conflicts, and all of a sudden
Okay.
we understood why. So that's a good one. In terms of ADHD, there's a book called The Kid's Guide to ADHD.
Okay.
And I'm just going to make sure I have that title right. It's a red book. And it's like a super easy. Yeah. I'm sorry. The Survival Guide for Kids with ADHD.
Okay.
That's what it's called. The Survival Guide for Kids with ADHD. And as a former English teacher, I highly recommend that if you are an adult and you want to learn about something, read a book written for kids first,
Okay.
especially if it's a brand new concept. So if you want to learn about ADHD, go get the Kid's Survival Guide to ADHD or the Survival Guide to Kids with ADHD and read that book, and it'll give you the basics. And then go get a more complicated book. Go pick up Driven to Distraction or something. Because you'll have the basic components in, and it'll be easier to process the harder book.
I like that. Because I mean,
Yeah.
you got to have a foundation, right?
Right.
And why not pick up if it's something that you're not familiar with at all, then get something that's very baseline.
That's how I learned about the American Revolution.
That's a good one. Is there anything that you wish you would have learned as sooner as a father?
Um, I don't know. I think what I wish that I learned sooner as a father would be around setting boundaries and consequences. I tend to be a permissive dad. And I think that my kids would be a little better off if I had started setting stronger boundaries like a year ago instead of doing it now. So there's that. I also think that I wish that I had been a little more proactive on getting my kids engaged socially in clubs and sports and things. And that I had realized that the value of having my kids play, let's say, basketball at this age is not to teach them basketball. The value of this of that is to teach them grit and resilience and how to take a hit and keep going, how to want to quit and get back in there anyway, and those kinds of things.
Okay.
Because that's where my kids struggle. My kids struggle in that resiliency phase, and they need to learn it. So now we're playing basketball and all that stuff. But I wish I had that perspective before it became really important that they learn resilience, and had been doing it like a year or two ago.
Okay. No, that's a great insight. We don't want our children to just run up against a small or slight challenge and crumble.
Right.
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 And I think that the other aspect of that is to learn that the power of team play, I think is also another good one that is encouraged when you've got them in the sports like that,
Right.
and that team sports.
And
What?
where we tripped and in our family was my kids were like, I don't like it. I don't want to play that.
Mm-hmm.
I was like, okay, well, if you don't like basketball, like, I'll make you play basketball.
Mm-hmm.
But as I think about it, I'm like, but that's not what I wanted you to get out of it. Right. And I had to communicate that to them. I had to say, this isn't about you learning how to dribble. This isn't about you learning how to get a ball through a hoop. This is about you learning how to bounce back. That's why we're doing it. So every time you bounce back, I'm going to get excited. And every time you dribble, I'm going to be like, that's good. As opposed to how I otherwise would have approached it. I would have been like, awesome, look at how good you're dribbling. Oh, good, you bounce back. Like, I needed to put the excitement into the bounce back side of it.
I got you. Yeah, no, that's again, I think that's a great insight. Thanks for sharing that one. What is something that you would like to thank your children for in 10 years? What have they given you in 10 years from now that you think you're going to thank them for?
Enthusiasm and no, yes, but the thing that I'm going to be most grateful for from them in 10 years is that I still get hugs from them, and that I can still sit on the couch and they can lean on me, and that physical touch that men never get, the physical touch that we are starved for because we're only ever allowed to hug our wife because everything else is sketchy and weird for some reason. I feel I need that. Like that's my love language is physical touch.
Okay.
And I know that as my kids grow up, they're going to hit a phase where they're going to be like, whatever, dad, go away. Mm-hmm. But I also know that we'll be watching a movie and they're going to be okay with leaning on their dad. And it's going to be okay if I put their arm around them. And that won't be weird. And that's love to me and that's love to them. And that if that goes away, it's going to kill me. Yeah. So knowing that we've got the kind of relationship and trust where I expect 10 years from now, me greeting them with a hug and putting my arm around them will still be okay. I'm really grateful for that looking forward.
Absolutely. No, that's great. I also enjoy, getting hugs from my boys and being able to have that close touch without it being weird. Right. Watching a movie and my oldest is 8 and, having him, if he wants to, still fall asleep on my chest or something and watching a movie. To me, those are like some great parenting moments. That's magic. Yeah. Yeah. You just know that everything's kind of safe and in that moment, for that moment. And I love that. Is there anything that you would like to touch on that we didn't as far as it goes to fatherhood?
No, this has been a much more emotional conversation for me than I thought it was going to be. And thank you for that. You're asking some really questions I just don't think about. So that's awesome. But I just that I think men need to own fatherhood. I think that too often that's discouraged. I think that for too long, at least in our culture, it's like, You just have to be the stern guy who comes home and yells at them when they get bad grades and makes money. And like, that's not being a father. That's not being a dad. And I think that we need to be willing to have that relationship with our kids and own that fatherhood. And don't accept it when people say, oh, you're babysitting the kids tonight. Push back on that. No, they're my kids. I'm not babysitting anything. I'll babysit your kids, but I never babysit my kids.
Right.
My wife can go out every night of the week and I'm still not babysitting. I think that we need to speak up when we feel like we're not being given enough credit, or when we feel like we're being given too much credit. We need to just say that. Like, look, I am not an amazing dad. I'm a really good dad, but there's nothing amazing about what I'm doing. And I know, because there are plenty of moms out there doing the exact same stuff I'm doing, mine included, and they're not amazing moms. So I'm not an amazing dad. So yeah, I think we need to own fatherhood and define it for what it is and be okay with it.
Awesome. I think that's what we're seeing. That's definitely what this podcast is about.
Oh yeah,
having those
absolutely.
Conversations, us as men owning fatherhood and doing more than embracing it, understanding what I think that what we're doing when we embrace fatherhood is that it's kind of weird to say, like putting a pole down on the ground that emanates, right? But what we're doing is like, we're really kind of being a bastion, a foundation for our children, that it's going to leave our house, right? And it's going to show up in the world, versus if we don't own it. And we have an amazing opportunity to do it. So
Right.
Thank you for bringing that up. Awesome, man. So Brendan, thanks again for being on today. One more time, where can everybody go and find you?
www.adhdessentials.com. ADHDESSENTIALS.com.
Awesome, Brendan. Thank you very much.
Thank you.